This is one of the best teams that you can use on Great League Remix, and this is a team perfect for the current meta, able to get a lot of coverage for all these moves that we have on each individual Pokemon, and of course the synergy is absolutely insane. You have 3 Pokemon that can pretty much counter the entire meta, while by rotating around your Drapion you can have the optimal scenario to finish off your opponents. So the reason I'm having here Sludge Bomb over my Aqua Tail, which I usually do on the Open Great League format, is because of Poliwrath, and you need that Sludge Bomb for that threat. And because Poliwrath is pretty much everywhere, we're also gonna use it as a closer on our team. If you do not have Shadow Poliwrath, feel free to use a regular one, but if you do not have a Shadow Drapion, well, this team will not perform as good, because for Poliwrath doesn't matter if you have the Shadow, but for Drapion you need that Shadow because you can get extra coverage with some individual matchups, something like a Skarmory for example, something like a Whiskas. If you get the debuff on the first crunch, you can possibly two-shot down this Pokemon, which is pretty great, and only Shadow Drapion can do that, while the regular one cannot. With that now out of our mind, let's see now what we have going on here, because this Fire Punch will finish us off, but not before Drapion comes into the fight. With Drapion now getting to that crunch, we can guarantee the knockout up against the Diggersby, and now they have the remaining energy to spend from their man team. So this is the first aerial ace, and now they need to get to the second as soon as possible. We can barely survive here with very bad IVs, and we can answer back at them with a finishing blow, with a crunch. Let's get that victory to start off the video. Against Carbing now, this is a bad lead for sure. You need to switch out to your Drapion, and of course having Sludge Bomb here is gonna help a ton. So here comes the first move. We're gonna do a lot of damage, and of course I will sacrifice a shield in the process, because as it seems they want to stay in, and by doing that I'm pretty fine by it, because whatever they have at the back cannot be much worse than this Carbing for my Frostlass. So here comes now the crunch after we get our hands to the Sludge Bomb, and since they blocked here, I'm just gonna let my Drapion go down. This is looking now pretty promising for my Poliwrath instead of my Frostlass, because we can farm a little bit extra here and get to the Shadow Scald even against the counter of ours. And speaking of counters, we're having an electric type on the face of this Chargeback. No debuff supplied, but still they want to keep that Chargeback clean with that energy banked up for the endgame. And of course now they have the Leaky Tank at back. Here comes now my second Avalanche, which will get that shield out of play, and all we have to do at this point is to completely farm down with our Poliwrath. And to do so, perhaps we need to sacrifice this final shield that we have. Now we can get out of this individual matchup with a lot of energy, enough to get us to the Scald. We can win the CMP and grab this next victory for us into a very sweaty battle. Let's see what the next one has to offer though, because we're facing an Empoleon. Guess what, trainers? I said before that nothing can be worse than a Carbing. Well, yes again, because we're having here the Empoleon up against us, and this Pokemon is a severe counter and a natural wall to our Frostlass. You do not see a lot of Empoleons around, and especially when we have a Pokemon like Drapion at the back as a safe switch, well, Empoleon can still fill in as a great core breaker for our team, perhaps the best one out there. So let's see how well we can do here, because the battle is definitely not over yet. All we have to do here is to completely farm down with our moves that Gligar. We need to spend the shield in the process. Did I spend the shield? Yes, I did. So here comes now the move, double blocking my Frostlass here, and right after, since they're getting super low, I will take advantage of the fact that we can bait some shields out of the way. Here comes now another Avalanche, and I will try to catch now the next Hydro Cannon on my Poliwrath. This is not gonna happen though. They have the switch out to the Dragonite, but we managed to pull through a couple of counters earlier, and now we can reach now to the first move much faster than they do, and we can finish the move before they reach even to a Dragon Claw. So this is a race now to the next charge attack. We can absolutely win it with the double resisted move, and we can grab another big win for our team, with Frostlass finishing off the opponent on the end game. This is looking pretty promising. Into the next battle now, and we're having a Dragonair up against us. So yes, Trainer's Dragonair might be weak to those ice types, but still it can finish off Frostlass under shielding. But this trainer decides to switch out to their own Poliwrath, which is pretty great. I decide to go on these incidents whenever they use a Poliwrath as a safe switch, I mean do my Shadow Ball, then try to get a shield or just do massive damage, and then switch out to my own Poliwrath. You can see here that we can do a lot of work with that in mind. Down we go both at the same time, but we have the upper hand with the shield advantage. Now they come into the battle with their dance spurts, and all I have to do here is to try and catch one rock slide on my Drapion. I'm trying to do that all the time, as you're gonna see in a while, because here comes now the rock slide. I tried to catch first, this was not gonna happen because of how slow I was throughout that energy gain that I was getting with the powder snows, and now that we're getting super low, I managed to get to the next avalanche. We are already at the double, but to my surprise, this is gonna be a CMP. I was hoping that this was not a CMP at all, so that we could head the upper hand. So anyways, here comes now the Dragonair with the return. We can have the Sludge Bomb for massive damage, and now this is yet another race to the charge attack, which we are gonna lose just barely enough. So here comes now the Drill Run for the finishing blow, and that was a pretty close one. So well played to my opponent, because Dunsperps really destroyed me down. Into the next battle now with a Mountain, this time up in front. So we're gonna see the switch out to the Whiskas, just gonna go with the Avalanche and then switch out to my Poliwrath. This means now that we can safely farm down without spending a sweat, and of course right after we are just gonna debuff the Mountain when it comes in. Plus side as well, you're gonna see that we are kinda low on HP, which means that they cannot farm a lot of energy as well. This is looking pretty promising overall against this Mountain. They also managed to block the Icy Wind, oh my goodness. Now with the Charger back at the back, we're just gonna get our hands on that Avalanche for big time damage on the Charger back. So yeah, this Pokemon is an absolute menace overall for the entire meta. Even against the ground types, it still has something to throw. Against the Mud Boys, I mean, those X-Scissors can be kinda deadly if you are not careful. So hopefully here we have the 2 blocks which we need to start using here, but I decide to let my Drapion go down. Instead, I'm gonna go in there with my Frostlass and try to farm as much as possible, and with those 2 shields my opponent will just bail out of this fight. Into the next battle now, and we're having a Swampert up in front. This Pokemon is a complete spammer for the Open Great League format, and you already know that we are gonna see a lot of those Hydro Cannons in action. So Hydro Cannon number 1, we're just gonna take it while the second needs to be blocked, and of course right here we're gonna see the switch out to the Gallade. I was trying to go for the move here, but unfortunately that did not work at all, and Gallade on its shadow form is another spicy Pokemon that I really think has a lot of play. Gonna block here the correct move and the close combat, and now we're just gonna respond with the Crunch. Swampert returns in a weird comeback, and we can safely farm down with those resisted poison stings. This is something you do not see every day. So here comes the first Crunch and another one on the Cresselia, and all of a sudden we're sitting out to a very bad one, because they're getting their hands on the Moonblast. Down we go in a single shot, and now with all those debuffs, all we need to do is to reach to the Scald and hope for the best. Let's see if that is gonna be enough to finish off Cresselia, and to my surprise it barely is enough, so we can definitely take that big W with this amazing team. Are you kidding me? That was immense. So into the final one now with a Shadow Machamp up in front. Machamp much like, oh that was a pun, yeah, Machamp much like, anyways, Machamp much like Shadow Dragonair can easily finish off our Frostlass under shielding, so we need to be extremely careful, and Machamp doesn't even get to that rock slide. They straight go for that cross chop, and they can still finish off, because that's how much damage the Shadow Machamp can do with those counters. So anyways, we managed to get here the big Scald on their end. Now the Icy Wind, which they are gonna block, and right after we'll try to get our hands to another Icy Wind, but they have a Whimsicott up. back. So the battle is definitely not over yet, but we're sitting on a very good spot for sure. So we're just gonna block here whatever they throw. There is no reason at all to risk it for the biscuit, and now that we have the crunch ready to go after a lot of farm, we will try to throw it, switching immediately to our Frostlass because we know that they have 100 energy stored up on their Weezing, and now that they threw the first nuke, there is no way at all that they have a double player or an overhit, so we can safely destroy it down with a simple crunch with that amazing resisted damage, that Weezing out of existence, and we can get yet another big victory. So that is gonna be all for today, trainers. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and over here I have 2 videos for you to check out. Feel free to check them out, and I will catch you up later into the next one.